Hello everyone, welcome to my review of Season 3, Episode 9 of The Flash, titled The Present. Before I go any further, I just want to say that there will be spoilers in this review. This was the Season 3 mid-season finale for The Flash, and there was a lot of things happening in it. A lot of things happening with Savitar, with Julian. We got to see Jay Garrick. We got to see a confrontation between Savitar and Team Flash. It was a packed episode, so I'm going to do my best to try to cover as much as I can, and also do it in a relatively short amount of time. So first off, let's start with the big things. Let's start with all the information we really got about Savitar in this episode. We got finally some backstory about who Savitar is, especially in this world of The Flash. And we learned that Savitar originally was a human, and he was the first speedster, the first person to ever get speed powers, and he has kind of morphed into this god speed creature that really only shows up when he feels threatened. And it's interesting that Barry is someone who threatens him. Now, does that have to do with the fact that Barry went back in time and created Flashpoint, or is it something else? I'm also very curious to see that Savitar is threatened by Barry when he can so easily handle him in a fight. Also, Barry has struggled with other lesser speedsters, people like Reverse Flash and Zoom, and we also got to see that Julian, who we now know is Alchemy, is not doing things of his own volition. He's not making his own decisions. He's kind of being possessed by Savitar or the Alchemy character through the Philosopher's Stone, which is very interesting that we got all of the backstory with Julian. We got to see how he was an archaeologist. He went on this archaeological dig and he found this Philosopher's Stone, which kind of unearthed Savitar as well as creating him as Alchemy. And it's really interesting to see that Savitar preys on people's traumatic losses in their lives. People who are close to them pass away. For Julian, it was his sister. For Cisco, it was his brother. It's very interesting that he is kind of preying on those feelings. He's able to manipulate these people to be essentially his henchmen or his acolytes or whatever you want to call it. And in this episode, we got to see how that works firsthand. We got to see specifically with Cisco how you're kind of put in this trance-like state almost where you're not making your own decisions. You are being hypnotized to an extent. And Savitar seemingly is doing this to everyone, essentially. He's getting inside their heads. He's talking to them. We saw it with Wally West early on. We saw it with Cisco in this episode. And in this episode, we also got to really hear a lot of exposition from Savitar himself, kind of what he's all about, and he is rather menacing. In the later aspect of the episode, we got to see Savitar talk through Julian, and he kind of let Flash know about this prophecy, or this prophesizing that he has, where someone's going to betray him, someone's going to fall, and someone's going to suffer a fate worse than death. Who that's going to be, or who those people are going to be, really remains to be seen. That's probably something we're going to see probably in the season finale. We did get to see a little bit of future prophesizing in this episode when Jay Garrick and Flash decided to close the Philosopher's Stone in its box and throw it into the Speed Force, trapping it inside the Speed Force so that no one could unearth it or let Savitar loose again. And what we saw was Barry being transported into the future to where Savitar is back and he kills Iris West. So now Barry has to deal with this possible future or this inevitability, and he's probably going to try to avoid this as much as possible, probably leading to him doing a lot of things he probably shouldn't, because that's what Barry does. As we even saw in this episode, Barry doing stuff he shouldn't do when revealing his true identity to Julian. It's really dumb that he would do something like that because he doesn't really know Julian that much. He doesn't even know if he can trust him. He doesn't even know if Julian is telling the truth when he doesn't know that he is turning into alchemy. It's really just one of those things that I think by the third season we have to get used to by now, but it's still disconcerting to viewers. But back to the Savitar situation, it was really awesome to see Jay Garrick back in an episode. I really love John Wesley Shipp, specifically even more so now as Jay Garrick, and you can really see how he's becoming a surrogate father to Barry, because Barry, having lost his own father, and Jay Garrick being a doppelganger of his father, there's going to be some of those feelings there. And I think they're really working that very, very well. He's kind of a mentor, a father figure. Also, it was awesome to see Earth 3 for the first time. We never got to see Earth 3. We've seen Earth 2, we've seen Earth 19 if you're watching Supergirl, but we never got to see Earth 3. And what we saw was that Mark Hamill made his return as the Trickster, a character that he was reprising not only from a previous episode before in this Flash show, but a show that he was on with John Wesley Shipp back in the early 1990s. So that was a nice kind of homage to that show, as well as having John Wesley Shipp as a speedster again, as a Flash. That's a nice homage. We also got to see the Trickster, who was essentially Mark Hamill doing his Joker voice and looking very much like a weird version of the Joker. So if you ever wanted to see Mark Hamill do the Joker in live action form, we kind of got to see it a little bit in this episode. But it was really, really interesting to see Earth 3. Perhaps we will visit it again later on. Hopefully this was not the last time we will see Jay Garrick in an episode of Flash. I doubt it highly, considering how prevalent he is now in Barry's life. We also got to see HR and Wally West training in this episode. We're learning that Wally West is indeed very, very fast. He's very, very gifted when it comes to his speed powers, probably more advanced than Barry was at the point that he is at right now. And that's very, very interesting because we finally got to see him, I guess, officially get his Wally West Kid Flash suit as a Christmas present at the end of this episode. Because this episode does indeed double as not only the mid-season finale, but also as a Christmas episode or a holiday episode, as they do so far every single season of The Flash. They will have a holiday episode to coincide with the actual holiday. But what is interesting is we also got to see that Barry and Iris are taking their next step as a more romantic couple in moving in together into their own place. But, of course, I think that deals with a lot of complications because Barry has to now keep this secret from her that he knows that she could possibly die several months on, specifically 5 months on. Also, a little small thing, Caitlin once again used her Killer Frost powers, which I thought was kind of a nice thing to do, make it snow on Christmas and things of that nature, but then I'm like, isn't this how she kind of drifted towards being taken over by the Killer Frost persona to begin with? Seems a little dangerous to do something like that because it's Christmas. But overall, I have to say, it was a great episode of The Flash. Perhaps its best episode, maybe outside of the crossover. I thought we got a lot of plot development when it came to Savitar, Alchemy, just Team Flash in general. It's really, really good episode, and it really is a strong mid-season finale. I can't wait to see where the show goes from here. There is still quite a few episodes left in the season. I'm curious how soon it's going to take for Savitar to come back, because I think we all know he's coming back. I mean, he is the big bad of the season. But if you like this video, please check out my other episode reviews for the other various comic book television series.